I'm inviting all the speakers to take place at the chairs because round table is going on. Sorry?
It's a round table.
Yeah. It's not here.
Yeah, it's here.
Yeah.
But Dorli made the round table. So it's
Yes, yes.
It's not all the speakers. It's different speakers.
Aha.
So yeah, Jeremy.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
And pass.
Pass. Yeah. Okay. And you take over. Yeah. Sure.
Hvala, Gobat.
Is this on? Is this working? Yes. Yeah. So we had many presentations to very intense subjects. I think we really learned a lot of things. And we would just cover now in this discussion on the podium questions that are maybe still open. So now you can think whether you have still questions to ask. And while you think, I will ask some questions to those who are already here. First of all, to Jamie, who is a wine writer, an early writer on Blaufränkisch wines, and he currently lives in the UK, or maybe his apartment is in the UK because he is traveling the world all the time again. And we didn't have any view from Brexit land on Blaufränkisch so far. So maybe you could give us a little bit update on what the British think about this grape and whether you can get it anywhere in London, for example.
So the first thing I would have to do is say, when you look at a wine market like the UK, it's complex and you have to segment it. So there are, in broad terms, we have the wines normal non-involved consumers might drink, whether they tend to shop in supermarkets, and at that level, Blaufränkisch hasn't yet, become part of the public consciousness. So one of the things I do is I write a column for a tabloid newspaper. So I attend all the supermarket press tastings, I see what they're showing. And while Blaufränkisch isn't yet part of that fixture, one of the things I've noticed in the major supermarkets in the UK is an increasing shift towards wines that are a bit lighter. Yes, we've still got the fruity, friendly, New World style wines, but we've got a lot more freshness and wines with brighter fruit flavors of the sort that Blaufränkisch at a lower price point would certainly fit into. We've also noticed like a couple of the major supermarkets like Waitrose and Marks and Spencer's have got ranges where they're deliberately buying exotic things that normal customers wouldn't necessarily have asked for, because a lot of customers will ask for familiar things like Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, those are Pinot Grigio, but they're actually offering a sub-range that they've chosen. They're asking the customer to trust them, so it's a push rather than a pull of quite interesting exotic varieties, and that's the sort of place where Blaufränkisch can flourish. Now, if you move up a segment to independent wine shops and restaurants, interesting restaurants, then I think Blaufränkisch is very much already part of the landscape there. And we're not quite seeing so much, and I'd also emphasize that Blaufränkisch is the name that everyone will recognize. Less so Lemberger, less so Frankinji. I think that's something that seems to have grabbed people's attention. And the UK is a very inquisitive market. It's very open to things from outside because most of the stuff comes from outside. So we don't have a big slot taken by our domestic production. That's a very tiny niche thing. So we're open to these things. And so in that sense, Blaufränkisch is ably equipped to flourish because it's interesting, because of most of the styles you encounter now of Blaufränkisch aren't the sort of oaky, slightly overripe, aspirational styles that were described so well this morning. This new range of lighter extraction, emphasis on freshness, purity, direct fruit. Sort of the time is ready, so the door's not quite ajar, so it just needs a little push.
Thank you. I think what you have described as an upcoming category in the UK market, this is something that Soli is just doing, and I think you just were quite successful. Soli Heimann from Sexert in Hungary with your new wine. Can you just give us an update on what's happening in the UK market with your wines?
Yes, first and foremost, thank you very much for the invitation, Guillaume, and Dorli to this stage as well. Maybe I'm the only Hungarian here. That's a pity, but anyway, I'm still
only the best.
Still glad to be here. Yes, so in Hungary, you have to imagine we are in probably similar shoes than Slovenia, just a little bit bigger, everything. So the market has opened quite a lot in the past 30 years, but still we are working mostly inside the borders of Hungary. And what I recognized from my studies is that we have to open to the export markets with our indigenous varieties. So that's what we started working with. We are putting our emphasis on kadarka and kék frankinji. So, and especially to the UK market, but actually there is a lot of interest from several markets, even from overseas, and definitely the Netherlands, Germany, right now even from France and Austria, and let's mention Ireland here as well, next to the UK. There is definitely even a nicer or easier for us to export kadarka, which is a very light red wine. It's probably not as an aficionado wine as Blaufränkisch or kék frankinji. Probably it's even simpler to understand. It's very gastronomic, very, very good to drink. Although with kék frankinji, I think there is this challenge that we have to develop it kind of together. So I would like to get back to Paz, who mentioned that there is an opportunity to create a system and a context through this variety. And I think if we are speaking about the Carpathian Basin and the Alps or this mid-European climates, then probably Blaufränkisch is the red variety. That's our best common denominator for that. And that's what I set out to do from my frog's perspective in the south of Hungary.
Thank you. So I think what you describe as your wine and what Jamie said, it's about more the younger wines, the crispy, and it's very successful, I think, with young sommeliers, young target groups, and so on. I have now a question posed to Bart and Mr. Triebaumer, the family that is the big pioneers. I'm not sure whether this has been discussed in any of the presentations today. Is like maturing Blaufränkisch in the bottle, for example, and what would be first in the cask and then in the bottle. What does it do to the wine, and what would you think is a perfect age on when a more classical, so maybe not the young, I call it tattoo and beard sommelier guys, but more for the classic wines, classic Blaufränkisch, what would be the ideal age to release them and or to taste them or to serve them if you give them a little bit age in the bottle and in the cask? I don't know who wants to. The producer and then the sommelier maybe, yeah.
For me, is every wine from every Blaufränkisch from our house have his own right time, I think, to start to taste it. So I think the only wrong thing what you can do is to drink all bottles. So I prefer to start to drink with young wines, but the last bottles you have to store, so you can see they can age very well. So we are famous for this. And so also the maturing time in the barrel, it depends of the style of the wine. So I think we prefer to produce a very classic Blaufränkisch also, like a village wine. And this is the idea of a Blaufränkisch like our grandfather had it. So it's a wine, he don't work with mussels. It's very fruity, but tells about the soil, the microclimate, and the philosophy of the producers. but with an elegant way. So it's matured in only very old big barrels. And then with the single vineyard wines, we also work with smaller barrels and with longer maturing times.
So how long do you keep your best Blaufränkisch in the barrel, and how long do you keep it when after bottling in the bottle before you release them?
We mature our top single vineyard wines. We mature for nearly 2 years in barrel. After then, we have a small time for second sedimentation in stainless steel, and then we bottle them without filtration. But after bottling, we go to sell them, and we are very happy when there are some bottles stay very long in the cellars. So also we store a small part and release them 10 years after.
10 years after bottling, or 10 years after the harvest?
It's only a small part of the production.
Yeah.
But later, I need the question from you. I think before this last time in the cellar, there is the other point, and it's the biodiversity in the vineyard. I want to speak later with this.
Yes, thank you. Paz, for your experience on the table in the restaurant, what is your guess? What would be a good age for Blaufränkisch?
Yes, it depends also, as we have also wine shops and bistro and the gastronomic restaurant. I think there is also Blaufränkisch for each point of selling point, and I think that is one of the the good things about Blaufränkisch. I'm still the things similarities with Malbec, but it's very versatile in the young style and very fresh, and you can very juicy and young. So it's very good to sell because, well, it's not high tannins structure, so it's easier than a Cabernet Franc from the Loire, for example, when it's very, very young. But we have also very good experience with also your wines, for example, when it has matured for 7-10 years, that are lovely, that are very, very well balanced, and that the fruit, well, it changes a lot, but it has this spiciness and more a forest floor. That I think that with 6 years, 7 years are lovely as well. Yesterday we tasted also 10 years, and it's beautiful. So I think if we can cellar certain vineyards, certain special wines, I think is what we have to do in this system as well, not to have only the young versions, but also to find mature Blaufränkisch to show the potential of the grape. Well, yesterday was, I think, my oldest Blaufränkisch wine yesterday night, 83, and then at 2000. That was very, very interesting both, thank you. And but yes, I think it's a grape that can age gracefully.
Thank you. So going back to the vineyards and the diversity, would you like to give it here? Yeah, thank you.
So for us, yes, Blaufränkisch is our best and loveliest variety, and but the whole vineyards what we have with all varieties, we work especially so focused for much biodiversity and a very intense green cover. Not only for this beautiful picture of flowers and insects and birds, there is some more. There is the only way of get the energy of the sun get into the soil, our soils, the feeding out and give the place for our wines, is photosynthesis. And so we need a biodiversity of green cover to feed the soil life, so we get healthy wines and we get a very rich soil life. This is a contact from the roots of our wines to the soil and to the terroir also. And we can prepare the soils for the next generation, so we can save it. Not only save it, we can do it more healthy, especially in vineyards. So the wines don't need to work. We don't have to work all time, and these are no vegetables. They have no problem with a little bit concurrence. And there are many of synergetic points that come with more biodiversity in the vineyard, and also when we do more biodiversity in the landscape, so we plant also trees, then the system goes more stable. And then we can find a way without fighting against the nature balance. So the nature want balance, they're searching for biodiversity. And when we do a monoculture, so we have the vineyard and grass between, or open soil, then we are the monoculture and the nature fighting against us. And I think it's not the right way for the next generations. So we have to do a big focus on the biodiversity and on an intense concurrence for the wines, so they get a very good combination with the soil life, and so they have a very intense contact with our soil. And we get lighter bunches, especially Blaufränkisch, have a very good reaction on an intense concurrence, so get lighter bunches, they get very light, and there are air between, they stay healthy, and get smaller berries, thicker skins, more intense, and they get balanced. And we don't need to work so much with the tractor and can save the soil for the next generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we are talking now more about the soils and the vineyards, and this is a question maybe also to you, Jamie. Is if we market Blaufränkisch wines, is it really important to put the varietal on the label, or is it more important, or can it be more important just talk about the vineyard, the location where it comes from, the vineyard where it comes from? What do you think is the essential communication tool for a grape like that?
Again, the segment of the market that you're approaching. And I think in the first instance, Blaufränkisch is the banner under which everyone can gather. And then those who are buying the wine because it's Blaufränkisch, then can, if they, like for instance, if they buy your wine, they buy a Spitzberg or the Lieu dit of the Spitzberg, the geeks will be really interested in that. They want to know what the Spitzberg is, where this has come from, the place, how the place is then interpreted through the lens of this very able grape variety, which has a talent for being a lens for interpreting terroirs, whilst there'll be people who drink your wine in restaurants who, for them, it's just a brilliant example of Blaufränkisch. So I think the first instance is to use or Frankisch or Lemberg or whatever, to use the variety as the way of bringing people in. Because this is, I think Guillaume was putting out this idea that there's something about this variety that you can actually, which is fascinating results, you can demonstrate in terms of wine aroma. This is a variety that has its own imprint. And so this is the first point. And then, obviously, when it comes down to interesting wine, almost all interesting wines are located in a place, and they speak of that place, and they speak of the time as well, the vintage. So that this is what's fascinating about wine. But you have to bring people in gently.
Thank you very much. Guillaume, I want to ask you a question about Slovenia Blaufränkisch, because somebody yesterday at dinner said that at the moment it's the easiest wines to sell in Slovenia is, I think it was Leški Riesling and Blaufränkisch. And I said, wow, that's fantastic, because in Austria it is very difficult to make people understand that you can drink Blaufränkisch on a daily basis. So what is your experience?
First of all, I'm pretty curious who told you that, because actually it's not easy to sell. It's not easy to sell. I mean, I will reply for both and quickly Lashki Riesling, and then we'll focus on Blaufränkisch. Lashki Riesling, which is the most sold white in Croatia as Graševina, but in Slovenia, a single variety is really hard to sell and often is blended in, let's say, easy to drink wine. But it is the most planted variety. Lashki Riesling is most planted white variety in Slovenia, as the case in many countries in Central Europe. For Blaufränkisch, I think it's a very good place to speak about it because it's the cradle of Blaufränkisch movement in Slovenia. And this festival, what has been initiated years ago, here, we need to understand that even here, where you find the most Blaufränkisch producers in Slovenia, 15 years ago, you could not find more or less any bottle of frankinji on the table in the restaurant here, in this region. And then, step by step, this move started to bring, and especially with the, some very top restaurant pushing, like Costina Reproche, for instance, where we went yesterday, really pushing to bring the thing to open the eyes of people. And now it started to be, okay, clearly that's our flagship here in the region. And now we are taking step by step at further level to try to bring it at national level. What we're still missing, I believe, is what you have in Austria, is a critical mass of top producers, meaning that wine that you are not generally confident, you are taking people, international people coming here and know that your wine will stand, is still missing, but clearly the picture nowadays is much, much better compared to even 5 years ago. So there is really a work in progress. And this kind of actually event also will really help to build a network that the producers are speaking, meeting with people with different horizons, and to progress, basically.
So what do you think is the future of this conference, or what would you on the podium expect or wish what the Blaufränkisch community could do in the future together, and where could it lead to?
Well, it's up to us and to build the future, basically. But I was really positively surprised when we started to discuss about that with especially with David, like a few years ago. And then we started to launch something at a round table during Vivinum. It was, I think, 2000, just before COVID, 2020. And I was positively surprised to see all the supporters that this variety has. And speaking with different people, we just realized that everything is here. It's just missing something to make light and to make a big boom. And based, for instance, what happened. It was very interesting yesterday evening. Because we had some sommelier from Slovenia, and they were all very pleased with the evening, and I'm sure, because we were getting the feedback that we got, that will contribute to put Blaufränkisch a bit more on the map, but it's not, we shouldn't stop now. We should try to move forward and think people as well, like Zoltan driving all the way from Hungary. We have people from Croatia as well coming today just to attend this conference. That just shows there is force. It's just a matter to connect people and move forward, basically.
I was thinking that, especially in Hungary, I think there is always this thought, since we have quite a lot of cake francosch planted, really more than 7,000 hectares. Very often, I think the biggest lack what we have as winemakers is that there is no clear signature style of a winemaker, and often there is very simple cake francosch and at very low prices, which is quite approachable for the entry-level market, but doesn't tell much about the terroir or the winemaker's approach. And just what David also mentioned, in the higher class or higher priced wines, there is often really much of this concentration war going on with over-ripeness and good maceration, strong maceration. So I think my takeaway from here, and I would like to, it's very motivating to be here for me because there is obviously an interest, and I think Hungary belongs to this conversation, and there is definitely more than 2 handful of growers who would like to take part in this conversation in the future. So my takeaway is that I think we'll have to develop on each of the winemakers' style, and we have to develop single vineyard wines and our sortiment enable to take part in this conversation about the terroirs and Kék-Frankos, Blaufränkisch.
Is there any open questions? If yes, ask them now, and otherwise it's over. No, everything is answered.
I might. Is this on? Yes. Yes. I think we need expensive Blaufränkisch to give it to the critics, and they will write about it, and this will give publicity. And this is how small regions or obscure grape varieties come to life. That's the idea. So, and I think you're doing that, but that's one of the ways. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's about I believe it's about of course network and content. Of course, it's not just too many. You need to show things, but to build the right network, which was actually the starting point when I met with Dorli years ago, because with the University of Nova Gorica we were working to apply, and Klosterneuburg as well, partner to apply for a project around Blaufränkisch and gastronomy at say Danube region level. And I was amazed when I came here. I was with my new eyes, foreigner coming here, to see there is so much in common in all this country, but they are so close. They don't know each other anymore. And that's I think that's really when we'll manage to step by step, and this kind of event will help a lot. Just to realize, oh, wow, what's going on across the border? Oh, that's fantastic. Or I know that they are here as well. The winemaker from Feravino in Croatia, the same. They're really pushing. They're really kind of isolated in Croatia to try to push for Frankovka, but they really believe in, and they're trying as well to make the move. So all this step-by-step connection, I think, will help to move forward. Yeah.
No, just I want to add something that when I received the invitation as well, and was the Blaufränkisch was the main subject, I jumped. No, I say yes, because it's true that today also we have so many information. Well, there was also Provine, it was Vivinum, it was so much events, and sometimes today is, well, there's a lot of information together, and there is a need also to focus, to see something in depth, and to explore more, to taste more. And also because the grape, it's about different countries as well, and that I think it's very, very interesting. If we do a Malbec show, maybe it's France and Argentina mostly, so it's a little bit boring, but here I think there is more, less actors, but more interest in the diversity and the interpretations of this grape. So I didn't have a doubt that I wanted to come.
Merci. Gracias. So I think, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that in terms of promotion, in the case of Riesling, where I have a lot of experience in seminars of this sort, and there have been some spectacular successes in recent decades of bringing people together, growers and consumers and critics together around Riesling. Eventually, with Blaufränkisch, I mean, we should be so lucky. We hope we reach the point that has long ago been reached with Riesling, which is everybody comes together in praise of Riesling, but Riesling becomes the hero of the story. And at some point, especially when you look at it from the perspective of the restaurant trade. Grüner Veltliner is a niche now in restaurants, and that's wonderful for Austria. And it's not too bad for anybody else, because Austria is still really the only country that has staked its reputation to that degree on Grüner Veltliner. On the other hand, with Riesling, at some point, growers realize that it gets treated as a niche, as a commodity on wine lists, and that they're all in competition with one another. And then you reach that difficult point where the emphasis has to be no longer on the grape variety, but on how, as a grower in the Mosel, or a grower in the Finger Lakes, or a grower in Eden Valley, how you can bring out the distinctiveness of your place. And then you're talking terroir, really. Then you're talking trying to market your place. And that's, so we hope we'll be so lucky with Blaufränkisch, but at some point, maybe a decade or so from now, then you reach a difficult transitional stage where the grape can no longer be the hero. And I mean, we're going to see tomorrow in the tasting how much potential in so many different places for Blaufränkisch. And, you know, I mean, I think it will achieve that niche status, hopefully. That's the first stage, where a restaurateur feels we need to have Blaufränkisch representation. But then, of course, at that point, we have to build on that and really transition to the promotion of regional identity and uniqueness.
Amen.
Thank you. You mentioned the tasting tomorrow. I think this is the next official moment where we sit together.
Yeah, it's like tomorrow we have a tasting. So we are limited spots. So we'll see where are we with having filling the spot. It's about 70 people that could attend the tasting in 2 sessions. Tomorrow we start. It's at 9:30, I think. At Albiana One Estate, so 21 21 producers from 6-7 different countries. They all reply positively and were keen to send samples straight away. So that shows as well the will to move forward and to show the world what Blaufränkisch is able to do.
Fantastic. So.
Thank you very much, everyone, for attending this conference. A big thanks again to our international guests to be here with us. Thanks, Albert, for leading the party today. And we'll see you very soon, I guess. Thank you very much.
Guess who has the blue mic here?
Take